next speaker. Let's switch for English for the next 30 minutes. And we want to warmly welcome Lasse Löll, the CCO of Jodel from Germany. Welcome, Lasse.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, first I want to give a warm round of applause to Improve Media for all getting us here and setting this up for the breakfast and everything. So thank you very much first. All right. I don't speak any Finnish, so I have no idea what has been said so far. I don't want to repeat it and hopefully don't do so. So today I'm going to talk about Jodel in Finland, and I'm not going to tell how we entered and what was the chronology of that and so on, but I'm going to dive a bit into what we can see in Finland happening and how that translates actually into like the global Jodel and how it can be seen maybe or maybe not in other markets. But before I start with that, I want to find out who is the real expert on Jodel here. So we're going to play fun with flags. So I'm going to show you flags, and if you think Jodel is in that market, please raise your hand. If you think it's not there, keep your hand to yourself. Alexi, you're not participating. Jada, you're also not participating, because you guys know. These are my colleagues, by the way. So if you have any questions later, about the community, you can find Alexi with his Jodel hoodie, and he's happy to share everything on Jodel. All right, let's start with South Africa. Who thinks Jodel is active in South Africa? Raise your hand. Okay. Who thinks Jodel is active in Austria? Some more hands getting up there. Also Improved, you also know, so maybe you don't spoil it. What about Ghana? Okay, Jodel is apparently not active in Ghana. Saudi Arabia. Norway. You can see a pattern here. Brazil. Okay. The US. And Indonesia. All right. So these are the 8 flags I just showed to you. And everywhere there's a check mark, Jodel is actually active in those markets. And now you can count how many you got right, and I want to find out who is the real expert on Jodel here. So who has 5 or more correct? Hands up. Okay, 2 persons. I was hoping for more. Huh? How many do you got right?
I think 5.
5 and?
Like 5.
Okay. So I was hoping for the real Jodel experts who can answer the most complicated questions later on, because maybe I don't, and then I was betting on you. Okay, so we can see that actually Jodel is not only active in Finland, but actually in a lot of different markets. And as I said, it's about local and global phenomena on Jodel, and I'm going to refer to some of those markets, comparing them to Jodel in Finland. So here's a quick map. And our most important markets are basically Europe, or Central Europe, Scandinavia, and the German-speaking area. And the second really big important market for us is the Arab world, actually around Saudi Arabia. Ghana is kind of an outlier for us in Africa. And in the US, we're actually very active on military bases. For some reason, military people found Jodel as an interesting platform to communicate. And especially those who are going to the universities, you could say, so basically where the Army or the Navy or the US Air Force train their cadets to officers, so the people who go through higher education in the military system. So this is one pattern you can also see around Europe, especially, that especially students, people who get access to higher education, fall in love with Jodel, and we can see that amongst the US military, coming back to that in a bit. I think most stats have already been shared on Jodel in Finland, but I want to give you some as well. So Carolina already shared that we have almost 700,000 active users in Finland on a yearly basis. And that translates into 15 communities where we have 10,000 active users or more, especially Helsinki is dominating Finland, including Espoo and Vantaa is the Helsinki metropolitan area. And we have 17 channels with 100,000 followers or more. And actually, what's very interesting, once you follow a channel, you actually you tend to stay active in this channel. So this is quite unique and like a super high engagement that we can see there. All right, so now we have set the stage for what is the global context, what is the local context. And to be in line with today's topic, young adults without filters, I've been thinking, okay, what can I do? And there's 1,000 things, literally. That's the complicated thing about Jodel. There's so much happening, it's hard to pick. So I thought, to be in line with today's topic, I go to really the core DNA of Jodel and what Jodel makes special. And there's 3 things to it. Jodel is raw. I'm going to explain how it's raw, how it's real, and how it's random, and what that translates into. And at the end, we're going to play maybe another round of fun with flags in a different context. So let's start with raw. That means unfiltered voices, pure and authentic. And here is one example where somebody can be raw and share honestly what's happening to the person. So when you read through it, I already hear some giggling, probably for the person to find out it was not that giggling. And now imagine you would have that pressure on you, you find that out. You probably want to relieve it somehow, talk to someone, share it somehow. And social networks are built to share, but do you want to share this on Facebook or Instagram? I think this is not the picture for your perfect picture world on a profile on Instagram. This is nothing probably you want to share on Facebook, because that will stick to your name for your whole life because you have the profile. And this is something where you can be raw, or where you want to be raw and honest, and this is what you can do on Jodel. And actually on Jodel, you're not judged for it, but being raw leads to actually talking about it, having the chance to basically relieve some of the pressure. Probably Jodel is not going to solve all the psychological stress that's coming with it, but it can help you, and help you to release some of the pressure. The Finnish channel ecosystem is super evolved. Finns love their channels more than any other market in Jodel. And thinking about raw, there's actually a whole channel dedicated to it. I think I translated hopefully correctly. It's called Shitty Life. And again, is that something you want to share on other channels? Probably not. If you observe that happening to other people, people share it, of course, because they're not affected by itself. So it doesn't stick to them. But do you want to share that with a public profile? Probably not. But there's just this whole ecosystem where you just throw it out there, and probably you're still a bit pissed about it because that looks like it's going to be expensive. Like, at least the bike is broken, probably something on the car as well. But you can share it. Okay, here we go. Let's be honest, I fucked up. And it's okay. And actually it's entertaining, at least for some of the people who are reading about it. And then I also said raw being authentic. And this is like some case, you have to handle when you're moving. And there's some things you maybe want to move without your parents or your friends' attention who are helping you to move. So what can you do? Send it by post. And here again, you can share this funny story, something that's raw and real and happening to you, but something again that you cannot share anywhere else. And having this authentic conversation also happens not just in the funny context, but also in the serious context. So here I'm now moving to the US, getting out of Finland. And I assume we all know what's happening in the US to some degree. There's something happened in the government, in the democracy, and Jodel is popular amongst the military. So what did I do? When they had this meeting in Quantico where all the generals gathered to hear the speech, which was pretty wild in my opinion, but it's a different thing. So I went to actually West Point. West Point, you maybe know from some Hollywood movies, this is where the cadets turn into US Army officers. So it's a world famous place in the military world, but also in Hollywood. And they are just then sorted for the most commented Jodels. And I can find one on the top, which is obviously kind of against what's happening. And then the second one already tells me with like almost as many comments, hey, it's okay what's happening there because of X, Y, and Z. And it's not important that I share the opinion, but I think it's important that I can share my honest view on things, and that discussions can happen around that without kind of throwing shit at each other and just shit posting and saying you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. But that happens. Of course, like they don't agree after having the conversation here, that Jodel is not going to solve that. But it's a place where it's honest true conversation can take place. Because thinking about what's happening in the US military at the moment, where should they go? They can't post that with their profile on any platform anymore. You know, you literally have to comply now. So where's the authentic conversation happening on social media that is hosted by US companies? It's not happening anymore. So Jodel is also a place for that. Then we have real. Yeah, real, there's genuine connections and being true to life. And let's start with being true to life. Who has kids here? Raise your arm. Okay, not that many. Okay, young folks here. But I think every parent can understand that it can be a struggle to raise kids, and can be such a struggle that it really gets on your nerves, that you feel like, I cannot handle this anymore. I haven't met a single parent yet that didn't feel that yet. If you share that, that's kind of out of the perfect picture world again, and you're most likely being judged. But it's the most important part probably of your life, and you want to talk about it. And I cannot imagine being a single dad, I think it's a single mom, and raising 2 kids. And of course you end up in a situation where you have this feeling, and you want to be real about it and have like a chance to share this feeling. And here you have it, because you're not being judged for it, but again, it's about the conversation and having this this option to be true to life. That's, I think, truly unique and something that we can offer, and actually something that we can offer as well in the other markets to a great degree, especially this use case. I think it's in Western communities, very similar. And actually that was one of the communities I personally have been very active in. As one of the very few dads I did once a survey, and I think in Cologne there were like 200 people, and it was like 3 dads. One of them, there was me. But also dads are in there, so super interesting. And here I have like the translation mode on. And ultimately, why is that happening? That you want to post that with a anonymous option and not with a public profile, is because a mother's greatest enemy is the other's mother. Yeah, and that's often happening. Not every mother is doing that. But if you observe those conversations online, it's happening. So actually, once my sister posted in the neighborhood in Cologne that she's looking for a babysitter. And she got thrown so much shit at that she deleted it. She has a thick skin, but just for asking for babysitters, like, why did you get a kid in the first place? You know, if you cannot take care of it, maybe you want to go out and have dinner. Yeah, sorry for that, for having a life. So and it was even a neighborhood network which calls itself the Nice Network. Being true to life is often hard, because it doesn't fit the narrative that people want to see on the other networks. Then the second part of being real, I said, are true connections. And there's like 2 big connections. It's the casual in reality, and also the romantic one. Of course, everywhere where there's a lot of young people, there's a lot of romantic flirting and so on going on. So I'm going to show how this translates throughout the globe, not just in Finland. So this is a guy from UAE, I think Abu Dhabi. And typical for that region, if you want to start to flirt on Jodel, you're just going to post a picture of your car. Of course, the classical Jodel user in Abu Dhabi is driving a Rolls Royce. And this is how you initiate dating and flirting, because you cannot just go to a club most times. So this is very interesting. How does it look like in Germany? Like, typical thing is the gym bro. Let's pose, like flex a little bit. And there, in both communities, it's actually mostly male initiated if you look at it on a bigger scale. What's interesting to learn about Finland, it's often the girls who initiate it here. So they have apparently somehow self-confidence when it comes to that. And there's a channel where girls post like pictures in lingerie. And actually, it was at the beginning of the year at a user event, and I was sitting on a table with 4 Jodel users, and then I talked to them, blah, blah, and have you ever met somebody? And they're like, yeah, I posted a picture on that channel, and then I met my husband. And the other one looking at him, I did the same. We are divorced by now, but I did the same. So this is, coming from the gym bro in Germany to the girls in Finland. And the girls in Saudi Arabia need a little bit less skin to do so, to get the guys wild. Yeah, this is already a picture in Saudi Arabia where I know there's probably 100 comments. There's like, because you can see some skin. Yeah, the society is opening. It's slightly different there. You won't find that kind of pictures there, but this culturally translate into the chance to be real. Yeah, I want to flirt. I have the chance to flirt, and that's enough to do it like this and show some skin. In the end, it's a great opportunity that they can do it in the first place, because with a public profile, no chance that they kind of try to do that. And then in Ghana, they're a bit more straightforward and not doodling around about things, but yeah, they're straight to the point. Then, randomness. I think why it was so hard for me to pick a few things out of the overall was because Jodel is so random. Yeah, you never know what's happening next. There's no algorithm that kind of figures out what do you like, and I'm going to show you the exactly same thing, so I optimize your screen time.
Did you turn it off?
No, I think the battery is empty. Okay, so yes, Jodel is random. I think this is the one thing we can all agree on. You swipe through and you have no idea what you're expecting. Sometimes a bit boring, sometimes a bit casual, but always having this local context, and that's why it's interesting for you. So it's very unexpected, mostly joyful and surprising. Yeah, so randomness, I had to figure out, this actually translates very differently across the communities. So I was asking my colleague Alexi, hey, do you have some random pictures for me? And I was scrolling through them and I was like, yeah, I wanted something more funny. But he was very much convinced, that's really funny and that's really random. So I was taking his examples and it's a bit of a social experiment. I'm putting them up here. I'm going to read you and see your reactions to it. So somebody baked a cookie. For me, it looks like a schnitzel as a German. I was like, yeah. Looks actually pretty nice, I have to say, but it's random again. And this is, I think, where we see kind of the local touch to things in Jodel, because randomness in Saudi Arabia is something very different than randomness here in Helsinki in the cinema. And also this one is like, I want to see if somebody else finds it funny. I wasn't so convinced, but I saw it had 6 pins, the direction, okay, I got it. So we can see randomness is, local. But the one thing that Jodel has in common, that this randomness is always happening on Jodel. And if you think about how you want to communicate, that actually means there are no boundaries. You can communicate however you want, because, you're just being random. And combining those 3 ingredients, raw, real, and random, seasoned with a little bit of a local flavor, are actually a great recipe to build a community, because this is what it's all about. Jodel is only successful because it has a community. People sticking together, enjoying time together. I always said, like, you can share something and then you can talk about it, you get support, or you just get an audience. But having this community aspect is the glue to everything. Without that, Jodel would not exist anymore. Then it would be one of those apps where we see a lot of downloads and then it just, levels out at a certain level. But that's not happening. One example I'd like very much to see how actually community is taking it to real life and rituals are happening. So I learned about those patches you put on your jacket, different ones, when you graduate from not high school or
during university studies.
Okay, yeah, so. And then we saw a lot of pictures where people custom-made or DIY-made those patches as a Jodel and put it on their jackets. And I thought that's so cool, like they're putting in so much work, so much love to something that's really special to them at this point in time. And of course, now we also have some merch on that, but seeing that the community is doing that and that is being shared and the amount of feedback we got on this, that was incredible. The community is random, so there are some German examples, which I like again, so I'm mixing that here as well. It's called the Leierkasten. The Leierkasten is a brothel in Munich. They didn't have a homepage. Yeah, this homepage has been made by Jodel users, and it doesn't look like a brothel. Actually, if you looked it up on Google or elsewhere, and this was SEO optimized, you thought it's a really, really good restaurant, yeah? And the Jodel community thought it would be funny. So what happened, that constantly families started showing up at the brothel and asked, hey, do you have a free table for us? Until the brothel complained to us, can you please kind of take it down and moderate a little bit? But the community got so involved in it to make up this fun story and, having this prank, I think nobody got hurt and it was fine. And actually, it was a lot of good laughs for all of us. Then we have something coming out of the community that's more serious, and it's called Help for Andreas. That was in Mainz, a small city in Germany, and a Jodel user shared that he talked to a homeless person. And this homeless person shared his story of how he ended up being homeless. And of course, he had a hard life, And it wasn't fair to the Jodel user, so he said, hey, do you think we can do something? And doing something ended up in raising money for him, getting him a job, getting him a new flat, getting him new furniture, bringing him back to life ultimately. And there was just one little community in Mainz. And seeing that happening, this is basically one of the things that early on motivated me to join Jodel. Then we have I don't want to translate it, it would be very wrong. So a person was was doing it to himself, jerking off in a bus. The bus driver wouldn't help, the other passengers wouldn't help. So the girl was texting that in Jodel. So basically they said, hey, don't take that. Even if the others are not helping, we're going to call the police. So they organized the police to come, take this guy out, take him to wherever, and help this girl. And I think this is a very important situation to help her. And then we have here a very, very recent example from Espoo, I think. A grandpa got missing. So we all know when people get older, there are some illnesses coming with it, so old people sometimes get lost. And if you just see an old person wandering around a bit lost, you think, kind of normal. You don't really know if he or she is lost. But the Jodel community then actually decided to, really look out for this person. And ultimately, a Jodel user then found that person. And obviously, that was also a thing that, again, the community did something good. 2 days later, the next granddad was missing. Again, the Jodel community got together and found the next one. And also a third time. So it's kind of the grandpa hunters of Espoo out there. And I think these are the stories which truly make Jodel unique and combine the three things that I've shared. Seems like a long way from being raw, real, and random to do those community things, but this is basically what it ends up to. So now I'm getting a little bit provocative. How much time do I have left? Yeah. Okay. So it's fun with flags, number 2. And I'm going to ask you, what do those 6 flags have in common? I'll give you some time to think about it. Any guessing? Anyone wants to guess?
There's stars.
There are stars. Yeah. But this is not what I'm looking for.
Is there some political turmoils going on?
Yes, political turmoil. So that's going into the right direction. So these are countries that have been influenced in their politics through meta. Either ethnic violence has been rooted through, or caused and initiated through meta, or how elections have been rigged. Yeah, we know about Cambridge Analytica in the US. We know about Bolsonaro, Duarte, the ethnic violence against the Rohingya in Myanmar. So these are serious things that can happen through the power of social networks. And I don't know if you have followed the CEO tech event in the White House being hosted very recently, but this is where Finnish ad spend goes, basically. 73%. That's not including TikTok, which is rising as well. So looking at digital ad spend in Finland, Meta Google almost take 2/3 of the digital ad spend. And these are the companies who could not be any closer to Mr. Trump and to US politics. And I think the one thing that we can all align on now is that this is not in line with the European interests. But yet, we put our money into their pockets. We did the same doing expansion, I have to say. Like, I don't want to do any finger pointing here. But things have changed, and I think the trajectory we're on has changed. And do I want to, I cannot, we're film, so I'm not going to say that, but those people here, how much conscience do they have? Bill Gates trying to improve the world. He's even there. And is this really where we want to spend all our money? I think we have a responsibility how we spend our money. And I don't want to advertise here for Jodel, not at all, but there's tons of European publishers who are doing great work, who haven't yet made them billions, and really talking about billions, to just invest into those algorithms which are able to manipulate their users for advertising reasons, this is why we do it, but also for other reasons. And it always comes together. It's the same algorithm. So either we can try to do the same to keep up and have the same effective outcomes, or we can think about how we spend our money as responsible citizens. And I don't want to say just move away from them. It's impossible. We'd still have to justify and argue for the results we get at work. That's not happening overnight. But I want everybody to think about, hey, is it possible that I maybe move 10 or 20% to European publishers to make a difference? Because every one of us has a responsibility. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. I will be there to answer questions. And thanks for your attention.